Today we're going to be looking at Waltonchain, ticker symbol WTC. Waltonchain looks to combine blockchain technology with RFID hardware in a nutshell. So their goal is to create a more efficient storage, tracking, distribution system and implement this on a global scale to large manufacturers, retailers, and distribution centers. So putting the entire supply chain on the blockchain brings greater transparency to all parties involved, right? Putting the supply chain on the blockchain isn't something new. Everyone does it. It's easily one of the biggest trends currently in the blockchain industry. Half the conferences I attend are all about putting the supply chain on the blockchain because the blockchain by nature is transparent, secure for digital assets though. So when you put something from the real world onto the blockchain, there's that still level of trust needed that initial data put on the blockchain is correct data, right? Once it's on the blockchain, yeah, that's immutable and transparent, but what happens when there's fraud before that? So Walton's kind of looking to solve that with their RFID hardware. So the project refers to this system as the value Internet of Things. We've talked about the Internet of Things with IOTA. This is a value Internet of Things, trying to attach real value to data, right? So not to be confused with the Internet of Things, kind of refers to the exchange of information between physical devices that are connected via the Internet. So as stated by the developers of Walton, the drawback to the current IoT models is that physical devices connected to the network must be verified under the same IoT service provider. Simply put, this can result in like a centralization, which will limit the autonomous cooperation between everything in the network. The new concept of value Internet of Things puts the previous model directly on the blockchain. The need for trust disappears in a decentralized network. It takes place in a way. So to go back to the beginning, RFID pretty much just means radio frequency identification. So it's that little device with a very small antenna, which can be built into like products, into shirt tags, food shipping containers, clothes hangers. They're used a lot today. They work by collecting data from that physical item and storing it using an API as a middleman to add to the blockchain. And all this data typically is passed through a centralized party first, right? A truly decentralized system is just not possible with that having to pass through the APIs that way. So Walton made this like custom little RFID chip to try to solve this problem. And their chip kind of adds all the data directly to the blockchain without anything in between. The technology is patented. I've seen videos of their facility. Seems like interesting technology. And patenting is not really looked highly upon in the open source blockchain community, but these guys are solely enterprise focused, so it's a little bit different than the rest of the projects. But it does kind of position Waltonchain as that leader in the value Internet of Things. Kind of creating that reliable, free from censorship and counterfeiting data. Pretty much when you look at like what their ecosystem is, it consists of a few different parties. Their network consists of like the parent chain, which is just the blockchain, and then they have these subchains off the blockchain, and they have like a token that's used as payment, which is WTC, and that parent chain ensures that it kind of has all the management qualities to control all the subchains off of it. So some of these, like, you have the parent chain that has the very base structure of the ecosystem, and then you have these subchains that can be customized, which is, I think, the most interesting part of this entire thing. So you have the parent chain and these subchains that can have customizable features, allowing for developers to create their own unique tokens that are native to each of these subchains. So you can have the main WTC, then you can have all these little random tickers and tokens off in their little chains, all secured by that parent chain. So acting as like a decentralized exchange, with Walton being the intermediary currency, WTC, and these sub-tokens can be traded in between chains. So an example like could be a parent and subchain relationship could be like a clothing company adopting this technology. So company may create a new style of clothing, introduce a new line to like 5 different stores. Each store could have its own private subchain off the main chain. And these store lines with RFID readers from the dressing rooms all the way to like the shelves on the hangers, and everything's lined with these RFID readers. The store can track how often like an article of clothing was picked up, looked at, how many times it was brought to the dressing room, and of course, you know, who bought it, right? So analyzing this data could assist the store in making like business decisions to increase profits, while like simultaneously reducing counterfeiting and theft. If you take a look in like a business example, their website kind of goes into depth a little bit, but if you're looking at it kind of a way where a user data may want to like keep something private, right? So subchains can be customized in a way that it doesn't disclose information. Again, I mean, it's kind of a simple use case on how this large ecosystem could function, but a parent chain keeps order of the subchains using a proof of stake and trust consensus mechanism. So take proof of stake and add like this trust element to it. It has like it's proof of stake with an adjustable difficulty for each node, if that makes sense. Walton's goal is to kind of choose a more honest node that can improve network security. Kind of think about it like an importance of keeping good credit, maybe in like in your personal life. Subchains do have that flexibility, however, though, to kind of choose their own consensus models and mechanisms to kind of fit their unique scenarios. I kind of want to look more into it about how these are being used in some of their applications. I know this is kind of how it works at a base layer, but I'm kind of curious to see how these are playing out in subchains currently. And then you obviously have that WTC ticker, their token, their ICO, which did pretty well. Their token's been doing all right. It did pretty well initially, got a lot of hype. It just died down with the rest of them for now. But you have that value proposition of the token consisting of like of the need of an underlying tradable asset between all these different subchains and parent chains, like I said. So each company will require its own subchain with its own unique consensus model, whether that's proof of work, proof of stake, and the need for a method of like chain security is needed. So as more companies want to interact with each other and the parent chain, the demand for WTC should theoretically rise, right? It's just an ERC20 token, but when it was an ERC20 token, I should say. I've been in this thing forever, and they did their mainnet, their 1-to-1 ratio. They have their own blockchain now. Their team's pretty good, filled with people from all supply chain management companies, some of the largest ones. Obviously, as funny as partnerships are in the space, right? That should be another video segment, I think. But partnerships don't really mean too much. They're great, of course, but they're just a little overwhelming. It's like every single thing of like one small entity of one slightly bigger entity of one bigger entity that it's like those nesting eggs where it's like one guy in one random department of one huge conglomerate decides to do something with a blockchain, and all of a sudden the entire company's partnered. It doesn't make sense, but it's used to hype up the price. But some of these partnerships they do have are going to be pretty effective in what they're trying to do, at least. So they are partnered with some of these large clothing retailers to implement their RFID chips and blockchain to the stores. How much the stores are going to use them is kind of, obviously there's no concrete, examples, but they're looking into it. So we'll kind of see where this goes. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit.